There were about 600,000 Jews back in 1948. Now there's about 8 million Jews and Arabs here inside Israel. And it's really become a major power in the Middle East, one of the strongest armies in the world. It's also known as Startup Nation, where Israelis have given technological breakthroughs in agriculture and medicine and many other technologies. And they're really becoming, in many ways, a light to the nations. CBN will be commemorating the 70th anniversary in a new documentary called To Life, which chronicles how Israelis volunteers are literally changing the world. They're going out, they're helping after natural disasters like an earthquake in Nepal or Mexico. They're going into Africa and they're using innovation to bring technology and advancement to many of these African nations. They're going in to northern Iraq to help Yazidi women who have been sexually abused by ISIS and trying to rehabilitate them and bring counseling, hope, and comfort to them. So it's really a miraculous story about what's happening. And one of the major things that happened recently is that U.S. President Trump declared that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel, and that he is one of the first nations, perhaps in the world, to go ahead and recognize Jerusalem as the capital of the Jewish people. You have to go back 3,000 years, or more than 3,000 years, and that's when King David made Jerusalem the capital of the Jewish people. It's never been the capital of any other people, and in 1980, Israel made a law that Jerusalem would be their capital. And because of that, many of the nations, they left and they went to Tel Aviv. That will be followed, presumably, by other nations like Guatemala, Honduras, maybe the Czech Republic, and perhaps even Romania is making a decision to move their embassy. And many people think this could be a time when the nations are literally in the valley of decision, making a decision whether or not they will stand with the Jewish people and or they may oppose them. Right now, some of the Palestinian officials believe that the United States is no longer, quote, an honest broker in Israeli-Palestinian negotiations. But within that statement of President Trump, he said that he wasn't making any final decisions about the final outcome of any negotiations between Israelis and Palestinians. But the Palestinian Authority doesn't quite see it that way, and there still have been no negotiations in the last few months, and actually goes back, I believe, to 2014 when there hasn't been direct negotiations between Israelis and Palestinians. And how will this continue to go on? I think Israel is affected not only by Palestinians rioting on their southern border, but I think more by those geopolitical winds happening inside Syria. And I think, as we mentioned before, Iran represents the #1 threat to Israel. And so they want to do what they can to prevent Iran from building a military base on Israel's northern border near the Golan Heights and establishing a strong, robust military presence inside Syria that would really be a forward base against Israel and threaten Israel's very existence. So how should we pray? Certainly King David in Psalm 122 said, "Pray for the peace of Jerusalem." And the Apostle Paul reminds us to pray for leaders and those in authority. So I think those two scriptures give us an idea of guideline of how we can pray for Israel, for the leaders, for the protection. And the Psalms also say that he that watches over Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. And while we don't have to agree with everything Israel does, we know that in Genesis 12 it says that God will bless those who bless Israel. So those scriptures can give us an idea of how we can pray, how we can act, and what we can do to stand with Israel for such a time as this.